I am Vinnie Tortorich, folks. Your good intentions have been stolen. But don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent at the beginning of this process, but hang in there. Before long, you'll be lean and mean, guaranteed. Just like Miss Anna Vocino, who's coming on in just a second. But before that, don't forget, NSNG Foods, we have 20% off. Promo code Vinnie. Molly Hatchet, flirting with disaster. Anna, do you know that one?
No, because I hate that I can't hear what you're playing anymore.
I know.
It sounds like Muddy Waters, but it's not the good kind. You know what I mean?
No, it's not Muddy Waters, the guy that all the Brits tried to copy. We're talking, it sounds like Muddy Water to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hi.
that song, how you doing, Pumpkin?
I'm doing great, Pumpkin.
That song came to mind because we're going to talk about cancer today.
Yeah.
For anyone new to this show, part of the reason I eat the way I eat is because I had myself a mean round of cancer back in 07.
What kind of cancer did you have?
I had leukemia.
What kind?
And, hairy cell.
That's a pretty bad one.
And if you guys listen to the Wednesday show, you hear Miss Gina Grad. Her dad had, it's one of the most curable forms of leukemia there is.
Really?
Yeah, it was the first leukemia they ever found a cure for.
Oh.
And it's a very rare form. They found mine so late that they said, we're just going to throw the kitchen sink at it. And if the chemo doesn't kill you, you may live. I'm paraphrasing, but because
that's the TLDR version.
The bottom line is doctors don't try to, I have a brother going through cancer right now. They don't sugarcoat anything, right? It's never sugarcoated. It's always, they don't want to manage expectations too much. They're telling you, look, this is what's going to happen. And with me, my famous words was something I heard on television. I said, what stage do I have? And the doctor's like, stage. You can call it stage 4, but you're beyond stage.
End stage?
Yeah, this is like
this is the end, friend. Late. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't pretty for me.
Yeah.
Gina's dad, who the guy, Steve Grad, ran every day of his life. When I say perfect shape, never, always ate a perfect diet, wasn't a smoker, not a drinker, nothing. He was just a fitness freak, very lean, very athletic guy. Early 70s, I want to say 70, 71, something like that. Maybe even 69. Dead. No longer with us. Had the same exact leukemia.
Horrible.
Yeah, it's a rare leukemia. For me to actually know someone whose dad had it. And that's when Gina and I became very close because, she was going through it,
Yeah.
She was dealing with it. It was going on during COVID. And she couldn't see her dad. They would wheel him past a window. And
God, it's just so tragic.
It was just not good. And no, he didn't die of COVID or complications of COVID. He died of this disease of leukemia.
Yeah.
I was told.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's horrible. We still talked about it. And
what year did you go through this? I want everybody to know when this happened.
07, I was training for a big race, a big, 500 some odd mile race that I had hurt my knee in the year before because I wanted to stop ultra racing altogether. And I hurt my knee the year before. I was coming back with a vengeance. I worked on my knee. I got it all straight. And it hit me like a ton of bricks.
So can I ask you a couple of questions?
Absolutely.
So, because here's why, because we're going to have a couple guests on who are going to talk about going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I want to ask is because I've never had cancer. Luckily, I don't know what the future holds, but I always think to myself, well, how did you know? Like, how did you even know to go get tested? Like when people say they have pneumonia or an aneurysm or a blood clot, or you know what I mean? These things that are so serious. How did you even know? Was it just something that told you like, hey, I'm not right. I need to go get tested for something? Like, what is it that made you go take action? Because you're a strong guy. You're training for this ultra bike race. Right. You didn't even feel as sick as you actually were when the doctor told you were that sick.
I kept getting for like a 6 or 8 months or almost a year before that, I was getting these phantom illnesses. And I was
What does that
adding it
mean?
all up. Like I would wake up at like 1 or 2 in the morning and doubled over in pain, like stomach, like and it's like, I didn't have to poop. I couldn't throw, I tried to make myself throw up. It's like, what did I eat tonight? But it was just like this thing in my gut where it was just, I was doubled over in pain. I would just lay in the bathroom and I would break out into cold sweats. And even on warm days, I was always cold. One of the things, and I kept going, I went to, a gastro guy. They knocked me out, did the endo, did all the stuff. And they were like, there's nothing there.
Right. You don't have like SIBO, or it's not like a gut thing, or C. diff or whatever.
Right. They were like, you're perfectly healthy. And they kept saying, you look very lean. You seem, and I was like, yeah, I'm training. I'm getting old. Maybe I'm getting too old for this. I was training really hard. So I kept counting the leanness towards, I just trained extra hard this year, and this kind of thing. And by the way, folks, when you're training for an ultra, you're on the bike. I probably did 18,000 miles that year. I was killing it.
God.
And
you were killing yourself and it.
Yeah. And look at any professional cyclist, you're doing that amount of cycling. So I had every excuse in the book. I was still wearing my winter clothes, and it was like 100 degrees in the valley, 105. And
right, because this race, this race that you were doing required you to be heat acclimated. So you thought that there was a temperature issue with getting acclimated to the heat.
No. I was cold even when it was 100 degrees. Like if the warm wind hitting my skin felt chilly to me. I would break out into chills on the bike.
What was your body doing why those symptoms? What is about leukemia that's like, we're going to make you feel cold, or we're going to give you stomach pain?
My immune system was shot, and I had my white blood cells were shot, just everything. And
wait, did no one take your white blood cells for a while?
All right. So wait, this is the crazy part.
Okay.
This is how crazy it gets. My friend, Patty, who came on the show several times, Patty Gordon, who was a radiation oncologist, talk about her in my book. She kept doing this thing where, like, all right, so at some point, the way the whole story goes is this company, there was a few different companies that made these tents that you put around your whole bed, right? And you pump nitrogen into these tents. So it's sealed off, it's around your bed, and you sleep in the tent. It's called altitude training tents, right? And they were making the rounds. Someone tried to give me one back to use back in the late 90s. And here we are, 2007. And this big company, I don't want to mention the name, but they were very nice to me. They said, hey, would you advertise? Because if you're going to finish anywhere in the top 5, they want you advertising their product. And I had a good chance of winning or getting top 3.
Right.
So they were like, hey, would you sleep in this tent for 6 or 8 months or whatever and talk about it online? Everything was kind of going online back then. It was early days of things going online. And I said, sure. But me with my integrity, I said, unless I can quantify this in some way, shape, or form, I'm not going to do it. And they said, hey, what are you talking about? And I said, before my tent even gets here.
Right. Yep.
And this is like a $15,000, $20,000 item. They were loaning me just for like a half a year.
Right.
I went and went to my friend Patty, and she ordered up a blood test for me. I wanted to check my blood, my red blood cells, my white. I just wanted to check everything so that I can say, hey, my hematocrit level started at 47 or 48 and it went to 52. I naturally raised my red blood cells. Therefore, this
tent works.
Does something.
Right.
So that's where I was. Patty got the test back, and they sat on her desk for weeks and weeks and weeks because she was like, oh, these are Vinnie's. These are for him. I don't have to look at them. And she had forgotten about them. One day she was on the phone, and she's kind of cleaning up her desk, and she goes, what's this that's been sitting here? She had forgotten, and she picked it up. And while she's on the phone, she just kind of flips through it. and she notices that my white blood cell count is whacked out. And
like, it was rock bottom, like really low?
It was and there was a few other numbers that she looked at. You know, I don't know if your bun or
eosinophils and neutrophils,
just whatever.
And
and she's like, so she gets off the phone and she calls me and she goes, "Honey, you need to get some blood tests. And I'm sending you to one of the top guys in Beverly Hills."
You're like, me?
This is the guy. And she goes,
my God.
she got me on the next day. It takes months to see, as you know, it takes months to see some guys. This guy was like a concierge. He was one of the lead doctors on The Biggest Loser that kept these people one step from death while they got all the weight off of them. And he checked me out, and he put me on what's the machine that does your bone density, your fat, the whole
DEXA scan.
DEXA scan. Put me on a DEXA scan. He goes, you have an 8.5 body fat on a DEXA scan. He goes, that's below what gymnasts have in the Olympics. I went, yeah, I'm having trouble keeping weight on anything. You know, I'm wasting away. I was muscle wasting at that point. And he checks everything and he goes, we don't see anything. Nothing is standing out, and this and that, and all this kind of stuff. And I was having dinner with Patty that night, and she goes, "What did blank say?" And I said, "Well, he said he wanted to do some more tests on my fecal matter, and he tested me 20 ways to Sunday." And Patty goes, "No, your iron is normal, but your white blood cells and your red blood." She goes, "It's look at it. How did he not see this?" And she goes, "This is it." We're in the middle of dinner. She calls this woman Dr. Miller. And she goes, "Becky, I'm sending this guy in tomorrow. You got to see him tomorrow." And I said, "Okay, who's this genius?" Because the last genius she sent me to, she's like, no. Becky Miller all she does is studies blood. She does nothing else. And she doesn't even take on new patients or whatever. Just go see Becky Miller.
Okay.
So she's nice enough to get me this appointment with a woman that really don't do all this appointment stuff. And I go in, and when I walk in, Patty walks in right behind me.
Oh dear.
"What are you doing here?" And she goes, "We're getting to the bottom of this today." She was concerned.
Yeah.
Now, Becky was sending off, they took a gallon or so of blood from me, but Becky can do stuff in the office. They can test stuff in the office. And she did. And she and Patty are looking at what they were testing in the office. And now I'm getting nervous. And I talk about this in the book. And it's like, "Look, guys, is it AIDS?" And she was like, "No, it's not that." I was like, "Okay, it's not AIDS." Because people were still talking about AIDS can kill you back then and all that.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, is it this? Is it that?" And they were like, "Can't rule this out. Can't rule that." They even said, because I'm full-blooded Italian, like they were thinking sickle cell anemia.
Sickle cell, yeah.
Other than African Americans, we're the other people who can get it. And it's like, well, it could be that. Maybe we should start testing for that. And Patty says, that's when Patty, the famous, "What we have to do." And she goes, my staff is already gone for the day, and she goes, "But we can schedule it for tomorrow." I said, "Look, what are we talking about?" It's like bone marrow biopsy. And I said, I don't have time. I have a busy schedule. I have clients. I have all this stuff to do. I don't have time for this. And Becky goes, "Well, I have the equipment here in the office." And I said, "Let's do it right now." She goes, "Oh, we don't have enough time to anesthetize you or do anything." I said, "Listen, just go in and get what you need. I'm good."
Oh my God.
And she was like,
So
and Patty said, "Look, this is the most stoic individual I've ever met. This guy does crazy stuff. He can handle pain." So Patty said this. So they I'm laying on my stomach. Becky, puts a little, alcohol right on, the small of my back, right on my hip. And she cuts, I can feel the cut. And then they go in with the tool to drill down into your hip bone. And think of like a 10-penny nail or even bigger, but it's got a hollow part in the middle. And they just, and they go down and they get what they need. And Patty said, while she was doing it, she goes, I want you to hold my hand. Like she was like down with me. I'm face down.
Mm-hmm.
She goes,
she squatted down to sit with you.
yeah, yeah. She goes, hold my hand. So I grabbed her hand and she told me this later. She goes, you know, when Becky started going in to get the sample, you didn't squeeze my hand at all. And I said, why would I do that? And she said, well, from the pain. And I said, oh, I learned a long time ago that you have to relax into pain.
Oh, that's good advice.
I have this thing where when people, something hurts, they go, ah, you know,
yeah.
I spent my whole life in pain with shoulders and the whole thing. And whenever it happens, I just taught myself to relax into it.
How do you do it? You just,
I don't know.
You just breathe. What do you?
Deep breath, relax, just, let everything out. Just let my neck and everything relax. And I just go into this kind of trance. I don't know how I do it, but look, I've broken every bone in my body. Evil Knievel's the only person who's broken more than me. And, I just learned how to, Serena will say, I'll come up and bash my head and have blood coming out. I'll just go, fuck. And then that's it. I'll go,
walk it off.
Walk it off.
I will say, having known you for all these years, you are the true definition of walk it off.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, that's how, they figured out I had leukemia. They did a bone marrow biopsy and,
with no anesthesia.
Most of my bone marrow was just leukemic cells. It was like 80 something percent. It was just crazy. And,
that's horrifying.
We did the test on a Thursday. I let the hole heal up on Friday. I was on my bike that Saturday, and that's when I got the fateful phone call. You got to get off that bike and do not ride another inch. And I had a PICC line in me on Monday.
I was going to say, Tuesday, little did you know you were going to get skinnier than you already were.
Yeah. Think Tom Hanks in the movie Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I was ravished by cancer. And not fun.
But then you beat it. Hi.
Yeah. Hey, here I am.
Oh, hey, Vinny. How many years ago was that?
Hey.
Hey.
2007. And here's
14, 15, 16 years ago.
And here's why, back then I would still eat a lot of sugars and grains because I was cycling all the time. And Becky Miller was a doctor that told me early on, all of my clients were telling me, because I used to work in Hollywood, folks, and everybody was like, hey, you need to start with this, smoking pot. It's like, okay, I've never smoked pot in my life and I'm not going to start now.
Yeah.
And you need to go on a vegan diet, and meat is murder and cancer and bop. And one person told me, you need to drink 8 to 12 ounces of wheatgrass per day.
Oh yeah. You talked about that last week.
Yeah. And that's when I said, okay, I can't even handle 1 ounce of that without burping for a month. And when you think about the price of it, it was just insurmountable. It's like in LA, it was over an ounce when you got that stuff. So I was like, well, I guess the only way I could do that is if I grow it, because I grew up growing shit when I was a kid. So I guess I can grow the wheatgrass and just chop it and do it.
Vinnie Tortorich, wheatgrass farmer.
But I on one of my last visits, once I was cleared of cancer, I said to Becky, Becky, everybody's telling me wheatgrass and I need to drink this juice and that juice, buy a juicer and do all this stuff. I said, that's an awful lot of sugar. And she says, well, it's, we're learning it's exactly the opposite. She goes, you're not going to hear about this for the next probably decade, but we're learning that cancer feeds, and most cancers feed on sugar. And she said to me, she goes, aren't you the guy that's no grain, no sugar in Hollywood? That's your thing? I said, yeah. She goes, follow your own advice. Cut down the sugar. She also told me that I would be back within 5 years to get like a touch up on chemo.
Like another round of chemo, just because
but not, they're going to catch it early and we could probably use a lighter, a different, cure and a lighter dose. and we can.
And maybe in 5 years they'll have something else that'll work.
And that's what she was
well
telling me.
and-
She goes, every 5 years or so, we're going to have to dump some poison in you to cut it, because even though you're at a chronic stage, you have a percentage of leukemia in your bones and it's going to grow back.
Right.
Now, what did you just say? 16, 17?
16. Yeah.
Okay. Folks,
Good job.
I haven't had an ounce of chemo or I get checked all the time.
You do get checked.
I have.
Which, by the way, get checked, you guys.
Yeah. Look, I get checked constantly to make sure I don't want to die of this, especially after Gina's dad passed away and the whole bit. No one's studying me and going, wait a minute.
I know. Why aren't they studying you? You're kind of a medical miracle.
This guy went 16 years without,
when it's supposed to recur in 5. Well, let me ask you this, because now we're going to bring our guests on. Do you want me to? I can email him the link and then you can let them in.
No, I won't know how to do that. I see his thing here. So what we're going to do, Anna, after I take this sip of coffee.
Okay. Because I'm excited to have them on, because the reason why I asked you, how did you know? How did you, it's another question I want to ask George. Like, how did you know? Because sometimes you just don't know, and you got to listen to your body. So go ahead. What are we going to do?
All right, we're going to do a quick Villa Capelli ad.
Okay. While you send the link.
I'm going to send the link. Before we do Villa Capelli, let me just throw this in because I'm going to forget to do it. The last time we did NSNG Foods 20% off, it was a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I took advantage.
Yeah.
I got 2 10-packs.
Oh, people have, they bought 4 and 6 and 8 and
which
even
you
more.
Should, guys. You should do that. So, it's hard to offer discount codes all the time. So when he's doing it, take advantage.
Yeah, take advantage of this because the phone calls. That's my thing, the phone calls. And people said to me in the phone calls, man, I wish I'd gotten more, and would you do it again? And every month, I did, percentage off on coffee. I did a percentage off on vitamins. And I think we're up on doing vitamins again, but we did NSNG foods again. So the ultra fat, if you put in promo code Vinny, you will get 20% off. So Great. Go do that right now. And
get those nut butters. They're my favorite thing. I had one for lunch today because I didn't have time to sit down and make a meal. And they're lifesavers. They're absolute lifesavers. I love them so much.
So Anna,
can I say one thing too? Because we have so many newbies. I wanted to just say one quick follow-up thing. And this is kind of addressed to the groups. And I want to hear your quick take on this. And I'm going to talk about Villa Capelli. So there are a lot of new people, like a lot from Mike Rowe. And I know you have other stuff coming out, and there's going to be an influx of new people. And so I just want to reiterate the idea of please go get Vinny's PDF and reread it or read it for the first time, because NSNG is a concept. It is a thing that's easy to execute. And then anything that you do after you get NSNG down is your way of tweaking it. And that's great, but it is going to be the foundation, right? It's the foundation that we talk about on this podcast. But I want everybody who's been at this for a year or more to be patient and to remember that when people ask questions in the group, or, you can't tell them you can never have a tomato or a snack, because where you are right now is way advanced. And I want people to stay for the long term. And if they hear they never get to have a tomato or a snack, they're going to drop off. And the reason why I know this is because I see on my mailing list how people sign up and then drop off.
Yeah.
And so it's just really important. Like, I would rather people just be regular NSNG, 2-3 months, get it in your system, get your grocery rhythm down, get your meal cooking down. And then you can start to tweak different things that Vinny says. Hey, maybe we stick more to meat and veg. Maybe we kind of stop making the substitute foods. Maybe we lay off the dairy so much for snacks. That's the more advanced. I just want to throw that out there, Vin, and hear your take on that.
All right. So Anna, we're not going to do the Villa Capelli ad now, because as Andy Schreiber would say, hell hath no fury like a gay man slightly inconvenienced. And
is he sitting in the waiting room?
Yeah, they're in the waiting room.
Oh, okay.
No, Justin and
Justin and George.
Yeah. So that's 2 gay men, and we don't want to inconvenience.
That's true. We don't.
Those guys. Oh, by the way, are they married or just?
They are married.
Okay, so
they were married in October 2012. I was there.
Okay, so I don't know. I wanted to make sure, because
yes,
you don't want to mess that up.
It is legal. They are legally bound.
Here we go. Let's see if they come on here.
Yay.
I don't see.
But Vinny, do you agree with what I said about the be easy on folks to? Hi, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, it's coming. They're
were
coming.
there and then they were gone.
Hi.
Now they're back
Come
again.
a little closer
Hello,
to me.
gentlemen.
Hello.
So
Hi, you guys are so profesh.
We're so professional.
we try to be. Folks, we have up Justin Tarquinio and George Kolasa.
Kolasa. George
Kolasa.
Kolasa.
Kolasa. I'm going to screw it up 5 times. George,
That's all right.
I'm so sorry. So it's just the way it goes. How are you
Thanks
guys
for being here. I love you guys. Thanks for being here.
Matt, thank you for having us. Yeah. We're excited to be part of the pod.
Yeah.
Well, I think that you were before you guys came on, Vinny was taking us down a little bit of memory lane of his cancer diagnosis and how it all came to be. And it's just so fascinating. My biggest question, because I want to hear y'all's story, and I'm so excited to talk to you about what's been going on with George, because obviously we know each other well. We are family, and this new adventure has made a new adventure in your life, to say the least. But I guess in Vinny talking, it got me thinking, like, how did this all come about? Tell us a little bit about your story. What's happening, George, with you? And however long or short you want it to be, I might interject and ask more follow-up questions, but I just want to hear about what's going on with you.
If it's okay, I'll start.
Yeah,
because
I'll help fill in the gaps.
I've got a good I'm on a good run right now, and
Great.
earlier today, so I'm like I'm going for it, you know. Now that means it could die out and it could get better, but we'll see what happens. But I'm just a guy just trying to like get by with brain cancer, you know, and it's not been easy.
No.
You know, it really hasn't. And each time that I get to this point, and now I've been about a year, so but every time I get to this point, it doesn't, you know, amaze me that I'm still handicapped, and I still am looking for answers, you know, but I've got to just like maintain my dignity and like and my, you know, that I'm professional, and I'm you know, doing it best that I can, and if I don't, then that will be it. And go ahead.
I was say, you want me to fill in the gaps in terms of how
I was going to say, can you tell us what is your diagnosis right now?
Yes. Well, let me just say that Anna's my sister-in-law, and Vinny, thank you so much for inviting me to come on your podcast.
We've wanted you on for a long time, so please, this is a pleasure to have you guys on. Thank you for coming on.
Great. That's so nice to hear, because I love to hear that, and I don't hear it enough, because I don't think this disease at all is given enough play in the arena of cancer. So thank you very much. I appreciate you and what you do.
Same here.
So I can start from kind of the beginning and how we got here, but I want to tee it up that brain cancer is different in many different people, and it depends on kind of where the tumor was in the brain or is in the brain. For George in particular, he had one large tumor that was removed. He has 2 active tumors at the moment. They're under control, but where they sit in his brain, it affects his short-term memory and it affects processing. So simple tasks that are easy for you and I, like how to get a glass of water, it'll require a little bit more time for George. Getting out the door and the steps needed to get yourself out the door in New York City requires somebody to help him. Some days it's better, some days it's not. So I'm going to help kind of string together or piece together the story, because sometimes that is a challenge as well. But George, I don't want to speak for you, but that's why I wanted to say that. So people don't think I'm talking over my partner, my equal, but that's how we roll now. that's how it is in a relationship. Sometimes someone picks up the slack. The other person is there to be helped. George was super healthy. This was a year ago, February 2022. We were on a sailing trip together in Florida. We were enjoying our time together. Prior to that, George was away visiting his family. His father was not well at the time, and we were rendezvousing in Florida. And he said to me before he arrived, I'm really not, I feel off. I don't feel like myself. And I asked him to kind of explain that a little bit more. And it was difficult for you to explain it. You said that you kind of you tripped and you like hit your nose on the door, and you were, in the car, and you went to go shut the car door, but your leg was still outside of the door, and you didn't realize that it was outside of the door. We thought it maybe was like, you were home in a stressful situation. Your father was not well, family dynamics, blah, blah, blah. We thought maybe it was just stress or something like that.
And if I can give, I'm sorry, let me just give a little perspective too on George's personality, who had worked his entire career in very like high stress, juggling, a million different things at once sort of thing. So for him to close his leg in the door is like that's not something that George did. Like George doesn't do things like that.
And add to that, he's very athletic, folks. He
very athletic, very fit.
This is a young guy, athletic. This is not a guy that slams his foot in the door.
Exactly.
Correct. Yes, George is at 56, George looked like he was 42 and was in shape like a 42-year-old and still does have like an amazing rock hard body. So that was very extraordinary. And we met in Florida, and he just seemed a little bit off. He was stressed. He had a little bit of a hard time getting on and off the boat, and he had been on this boat many times, sailing the boat himself. It just was a little bit off. We called his primary care physician, who he had been, had a relationship with for at least 20 years, if not longer. We had thought maybe it was Lyme's disease because he was bitten by a tick earlier that year. And Lyme's disease can present itself in a way with neurological conditions. His doctor thought maybe it was depression. He prescribed a light antidepressant. And I remember saying to his doctor, it could be that, yes, but I really feel like there's something else going on. And you kind of did okay during the trip, but certain things, like you had a business meeting and we had to reschedule it. And it was very difficult for you to figure out what to say, how to redo it. You had a lot of anxiety. I had to leave to go on to another trip, and George continued on the trip and then traveled home to New York on his own, flew home with our puppy at the time, who was very young, got in the car at the airport where we parked the car, and he drove an hour home from the airport. And then over the course of that weekend, really rapidly declined to the point where 2 days later, he woke up and had no feeling on the left side of his body. Wow. Wasn't able to hold the water glass, wasn't able to kind of walk very well, and couldn't take care of the dog. And that's kind of when he called a friend. A friend came over, they called me, I was away. And, I had known what was happening. I had said to the friend, get him back to New York City right away, get him to the emergency room. Initially, they just wanted to get him back to New York. So he was near the hospital. I'm like, absolutely not. Get back to the emergency room. So they took him in. It was President's Day 2022. And I think at that point, our friend had said, like, maybe you're having a stroke. I think she maybe embellished so he could kind of get ahead in the line in the queue at the ER,
sure.
Which was very smart. And they did a CT scan right away, and they detected that there was a tumor in his brain the size of a grapefruit.
A grapefruit.
A grapefruit, something you didn't even eat.
But let me ask this question, George. Did you feel any pressure on your brain, or feel any kind of pain, headaches? Nothing. Anything like that? No,
and usually with a brain tumor, in most people, there is persistent headaches, there are seizures, vomiting. George was 100% normal. I remember I dropped him off at the airport, so he went home to see his family before our trip. and I dropped him off one person. And when I saw him in Florida, and when I made it back from our trip, my separate trip that I was on to see him, now at that point in the hospital, he was a different person. That's how quickly this came on. And we consulted, with the neurosurgeon and the neuro team at the hospital in New York. I'd asked the question, like, how did this happen so quickly? Like, do you know how long this tumor was in his brain? And they said at that point, like, we have no way of knowing how long this tumor was there. It could have been there for decades. It could have been there for years, peacefully cohabitating inside your body with no problem. And, then we also learned from the scan, they did an MRI after the CT scan to get a little bit of a further analysis. They discovered 2 smaller lesions or tumors that were also there. And then the diagnosis became glioblastoma. George had surgery. They did what they call a resection. They removed the large grapefruit-sized tumor. But where the 2 other tumors were, they are in an area in the brain that could not be operated on because they would, affect other functions.
Right.
And I asked, doing some research and talking to the doctor, the thing with glioblastoma is that glioblastoma tumors can double in size in just 2 weeks.
Wow.
Really?
Yes, that's how aggressive these types of tumors can be.
Yeah, I have a friend. He's pretty well known in the community of podcasts. Brian Bishop, Ball Brian from the Adam Carolla Show.
Yeah,
they've spoken. You introduced them. Did you know that?
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's been living with one. I want to say, I don't want to exaggerate, 13 or 14 years now. And his was in a spot where they said it was going to kill you, like right away. And here we are. They've kept his at a certain size for all of these years, which is amazing. It's amazing what medicine's figuring out every day. But in 2 weeks, it can double in size, man. That's
size. And that is why the doctor said, like, I don't know, it could have been here for years. It could have been here for decades. It could have just appeared because it grows so quickly. It could literally have just happened. In the area in his brain where the large tumor was, luckily that area doesn't affect motor functions. It doesn't affect a lot of things, but where that large tumor was, it affects primarily motivation, and it affects your sensory perception in the sense of where your body is at in time and space. Me as the husband, as now the primary caregiver, I had immediate guilt. Number one, that's like, how could I not know that my husband had a brain tumor? How could I overlook this? How could I not see any signs? There were no physical signs at all up until to the very end. But in looking back on certain things, I can replay in my mind things with motivation. But I didn't think too much of it because it was a post-COVID world. George had just left his big, corporate job. He was, took time off during COVID, as most of us did, a new way of life, was starting his own business. And I just thought, of course, it's difficult to get those kind of things off the ground. But when I replay that in my mind, I can see certain warning signs like that. So I would say, there's always important to have a takeaway. I would say that if you're feeling off in any way, obviously physically, but, emotionally or mentally, always kind of consult with your doctor. I mean, your body so well, don't ignore any signs. And not that we ignored any signs, but, that's the one piece of advice that I could give to anybody. And
that's great advice. And it's not something that you hear every day, because before, you guys going through this experience, I never would have thought if something like that happened to me to ask for a brain scan, Right. So the fact that you guys are out here spreading this message to ask for something that's not often asked for, if that's what you feel you need, and to advocate for yourself. And also I want to talk about your fundraising work that George has committed to raising $1 million for research of rare cancers. And by the way, doing an incredible job. But yeah, how do you know you can just ask for a brain scan? Like you just be like, hey bro, I need a brain scan. Like,
I don't want to create paranoia for the audience. That like, oh my God, I'm like having an off day. Like I need a brain scan.
Right.
No paranoia. And we can laugh at the situation because we have a really good outlook on everything. But, the reality is brain scans or scans are not part of your annual physical. That's just the reality.
I've never had a brain scan.
To get an MRI, we all know, like, you have your knee hurts, or your like elbows in pain, or your shoulder from working out, to get a prescription to get an MRI. It's like, it takes a lot of work. It's not part of the annual. It's expensive actually to have it done. And the insurance companies kind of look at the statistics. And if I only know the statistics of glioblastoma, it's 13,000 people a year are diagnosed with it. Yeah. It's the most common primary brain tumor. I don't know, maybe there's 15,000 brain tumors a year. Do not quote me on that. Statistically speaking, the chances are that someone's going to have a brain tumor are low. So no, it is not part of your annual physical. But if there are ongoing problems with your neurological functions, or dizziness, or headaches, or seizures, 100% you should ask for a brain scan.
But Justin, it's interesting because right before you guys came on, we were talking about exactly the same thing. I kept, I was having trouble right before I figured out I had cancer, but you write it off. You look in the mirror and you go, I'm healthy. Look at me. I'm lean. I'm fit. Exactly. And you look at someone like George and you go, this guy is, folks, think of, if you've ever seen the conch shell photo of me, George walked around like that.
Yeah.
He's that guy, right? You don't look at George and go, oh.
I'm going to find the conch shell photo so I can show you guys.
And ate like a pint of ice cream every night, which, I know it was very off-brand for.
Yeah. It doesn't. Stop.
I'm not endorsing that. Your listeners.
Stop shaming my audience, man, with your boyfriend. Oh, he ate a pint every night and he looked like that. But that's he was that guy. So, you can make every excuse in the world. Oh, I was in a rush one day. I slammed in the door. Oh, I was getting on a boat. Maybe I tripped because my flip-flop caught something. You start making up every excuse in the world other than the fact that.
Tell yourself a narrative.
Say again?
You tell yourself a narrative.
Yeah. There's Vinny with the conch shell. Isn't that amazing?
Don't judge, Vinny, guys. Don't judge me.
Which team are you?
I know. It calls it into question. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it really does. That photo, I was the king or the queen of West Hollywood for a long time when that photo was in a national magazine. It was in W magazine. And every gay guy wanted to meet me. And my gay friends was like, no, you don't understand. He's straight. He's a straight guy. And then luckily, right behind that, Marky Mark got the big Calvin Klein ad, and they put a big billboard up in West Hollywood, and I was off the hook.
Good for you. Marky Mark took the focus off of you.
I'm sure you were his stand-in for the photo for the campaign shoot.
No, but that's the way that worked. I was famous in the gay community for 5 minutes, and then Marky Mark and his underwear came along, and I was free. They never thought of me again. The way that works.
Well, that's
sorry. We
got digressed. I apologize.
Yeah, no,
that happens on this show.
It happens more often.
But it's that thing where you just keep. You're right. You create a narrative around all of it, right? And I wish I had thought of that. That's exactly what it is. You create this weird narrative, and you just keep going down that road. Do you agree?
100%. Now, Vinny, that you mentioned, like the other story about the flip-flop on the boat, like there was one point, maybe 6 or 7 months prior, George, you were at the gym and you dropped the dumbbell on your finger, which is like, who hasn't had that happen before? It made me think at one point, like, oh my God, was that an early warning sign? Were you losing your balance 6 months prior? It's just.
Absolutely.
It could have been.
Absolutely. Just everything that I did up to that, I'd say 3 years, 4 years, it all has to do with contributing to my brain cancer because I was off because of that.
I wouldn't say 3 or 4 years. I would say maybe the 6 months prior, but we kept on going with our lives. So that is the narrative of,
everybody has busy lives. You're like, I'm not going to stop unless it gets serious.
just
it was post-COVID, and you look in the mirror and you look completely healthy now, 14 months into this journey. And that's the thing about glioblastoma. And that is sometimes the challenge, is that George does not look like a typical cancer patient that you see in TV or the movies, the way it's portrayed. You look the way that you used to. You have a buzzed haircut because of your, hair loss from radiation, but that creates challenges, and people come up to you on the street that haven't seen you, and they approach you, and they come from your backside, which is really challenging because your sensory perception is off, or people will run towards you on the street. It's New York City, and it's very overwhelming. That's also a message we want to convey as well, is that, you walk by somebody on the street, you cut somebody up on the freeway, or you don't hold the door open for somebody at the grocery store. You never know what someone is going through.
Yeah.
So
before we get into talking about the charity, Justin, did you feel guilt over not realizing what was happening? Did you go through any kind of guilt?
Yes. Yes, and I still feel guilt from that. And when he was not feeling well at first, when we were in Florida, I went on another trip. I went to go see our mother, and then I went on a surfing trip in Nicaragua. I'm not even going to tell you the harrowing 30-hour trip it was for me to get home once I realized he had a brain tumor. But yeah, I had tremendous guilt about that I couldn't recognize these warning signs. But there really weren't any warning signs really until the last day or two.
Yeah.
Serious warning signs. And I had never heard of glioblastoma before. I'm not sure if your audience or listeners have ever heard of it, but it is very serious. The way that George has approached the diagnosis from day one, and what he said to his doctors, and it's the wish that I respect, your wish, is that he doesn't want to know the specifics. He's never Googled anything about the statistics of glioblastoma.
Good.
Hasn't specific questions. Really, what he said to the doctors early on was, I want to know what I need to know when I need to know it. And they respected that. I respect that with him. In one of our first consults with the neurosurgeon, he said to us, don't Google anything about, brain tumors, glioblastoma. If you want to know anything, just ask me or Google about my records. That's all.
Oh,
and that also
is a good doctor. That's a good surgeon.
A really good doctor. He chose the right doctor.
Anna, my doctor did the same thing. She said, do not go home and Google what you have. And I didn't. And I told the same, I have my younger brother who's going through really bad cancer right now. And I said, Frankie, don't Google, do not. But of course he Googled.
I would be hard pressed not to Google or go on Reddit. I'd be honest.
I'm like George. I didn't want to know. I was like, she told me not to Google. As a matter of fact, let's be honest, I didn't fucking know how to use Google.
I was going to say, Vinny, you came to me in 2012. You didn't know how to turn a computer on. So I don't think that you were at grave risk of Googling.
30 seconds before it started. You can send a calendar invite with the Zoom.
I know. No, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. We all made it. It is like, George didn't want to approach it that way, but me as, the caregiver, I couldn't take that approach. So I immediately started graciously reading anything possible. And there was a lot of garbage out there online. And you have to know kind of how to filter things out, but kind of how to read between the lines, and then having a trusted doctor or a network to turn to for advice. I did a lot of research, and George was also very open up, and he is very open about his journey on social media, which was something that wasn't George's style before. And I remember it was the first day of his radiation and chemo treatment in March 2022 that he was going to journal the first morning, and his brother was visiting and encouraged him to take a video. And then he decided to post it on social media, and that's kind of where everything went viral. And George has created a really big following, not with just other, check him out at Kolasa, Kolasa. And it's not just with other, glioblastoma patients or other cancer patients. He has people that are following him from all over the world, all walks of life, who are voraciously wanting to see a new video from him because you impart really good insights to people about how to be accepting of your life and how to kind of live graciously and purposefully. And that just kind of really put us down a path. And we got, further connected to Memorial Sloan Kettering, where he's being treated. And the social team took notice of that. He took over their social channel for the month of May, which is Brain Cancer Awareness Month.
Which, by the way, this is going to air starting May 1st. I think this comes out Monday.
This comes out next Monday. Well,
Yeah, perfect.
We might be 2 weeks ahead, Anna.
Oh, we might be 2 weeks ahead. Sorry, never. But it will be in the middle of Brain Cancer Awareness Month, which is awesome.
Yeah. Or we could talk to Debbie and move it up to next Monday.
Don't make Debbie mad. Okay, but can I ask George?
And then from there,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we got. I'll get to that, and we got connected to Cycle for Survival, which is a big charity movement connected to Memorial Sloan Kettering and affiliated with Equinox Fitness Clubs. That's been ongoing since 2007. It is one of the largest fundraisers for the rare cancer community. We got asked to kind of participate last year. George was asked to speak, and we fell so in love with the organization and the people behind it and the cause that that's really become George's focus, and that's where he's put a lot of his efforts.
Can I ask George a question about that?
Yeah,
we're going to be fundraising. We're going to put links. We're going to put everything in the show notes. We'll get all the information. Debbie, I'll get stuff to you. George, because this is what I love about your videos, and just to rate, everybody follow at Kolasa, GKOLASA on Instagram, because his videos are amazing. Oh, and also donate. Please donate. That goes without saying. I boss everybody around in my stories anyway to donate.
Right there. So everyone who's listening to the audio, you're going to hear all the behind the scenes stuff.
No, I'm going to tell Debbie to cut it out. No, I'm going to cut it out.
By the way, I just did a Villa Capelli ad. So we're good on that.
I'm going to tell her to cut it out. I will do another Villa.
No, we're good. All right. So I want to talk to the guys about how people can.
I just asked George the most amazing question that he was about to give an answer to, which is, what was the moment when he decided that he was going to accept what was happening to him, and where most of us would have gone kicking and screaming and in denial and had a temper tantrum? That was not George. George, what say you?
So basically, I never skipped a beat. From the moment that I found out that I had brain cancer, I literally looked at who I was speaking to, and I said, God's will, not mine, be done. And I accepted it from that point on, that I have brain cancer and that I'm going to fight, and I'm going to thrive, and I'm going to, live to the best I can for as ever long as I can. And that's just the way it is. And I really accept it. And if I don't make it tomorrow or the next day, then I don't. And I feel really, really good about that. And I feel really good that at that moment I accepted my defeat. I mean, it's not defeat. I shouldn't say that. It's my
your fate.
It's just
your
path.
It's the path I've been on. And I've never, I speak to people about this, and I speak to people. So many people ask me, like, at what point did you realize, and at what point? And you know what? I just did. It was fine. And from that point on, I just, I changed. And I've been the same. I've just changed because I have brain cancer.
That's
and
wonderful.
I don't know what that means, but like, it seems to be fine. And it's made me a better person because of it. Like, I really, it has. And I've not met many other people who can say that. And I can literally, like, a very small amount of people. So
that's amazing. You're amazing.
That's what
it really makes you're able to live with dignity that way, when you just accept what life throws at you. And I find that, just hearing that, it makes me want to be a better person, just knowing that there are people like you in the world who think that way.
Yep.
That,
Me
you
too.
know?
Me too.
Justin, do you want to say something?
I was gonna say that must make everything in life so much easier. If you go through life or through any situation with that attitude, it really makes you stop and think, like, the amount of ease that you can live in your life.
Yeah.
As opposed to struggle and denial and anger and, you know, blaming other people. It makes probably everything so much easier. And I think that's why
It does.
it's done so well.
It's not that
attitude.
you're not fighting. You are fighting, but it's the acceptance of, okay, I am ready for this fight. And I come at it with all of myself. And I'm not going to be upset that I have to do it. I'm just going to do it. And that, to me, that point of clarity is beautiful.
Anna, that is it. I mean, I can only give what I can and accept what I can. And beyond that, it's in God's hands. And I'm telling you, from the moment that I snapped from one to the next, I was just, okay, let's do it.
Right.
And I did not even skip a beat. And from that point, I've accepted this, you know, my fate. I really have.
How much do you intend to raise? What's your goal?
You want me to answer that?
Yeah, you do.
Our goal is $1 million. And the reason we're at, right now,
Wow,
on this date, we're about $419,000, which cycle survival is huge. There's teams and events all over the country. The New York event is coming up this weekend. We are the number 3 team nationally for dollars raised. The only teams ahead of us are 2 corporate teams. You know, the reason why we got involved with it, because rare cancers like glioblastoma account for over 50% of all cancer diagnoses.
What?
And most often, rare cancers, brain, pediatrics, pancreatic, ovarian, that's a rare cancer. Rare cancers account for over 50% of all cancers, yet receive little to no funding at all. That's why it's so important. Not that, you know, everyone is so aware of the Susan G. Komen Foundation, breast cancer, October, breast cancer. Not to take away from any other cancer or illness, but there are, you know, the truth of the matter is that for glioblastoma or other brain tumors, there's been little advancements that have happened in the past 20 years. We go to Germany once a month. We have to go 11 visits. So we go once a month. George is receiving a personalized peptide vaccine that was created, synthesized using his own tumor tissue, with the goal of his immune system to stop the cancer that's there and prevent any future growth. It is still a trial in Germany in the sense that it's not approved, but it is 100% he's not getting the placebo effect. There are similar things that are being trialed in the US, but because of the small populations of rare cancer patients generally, and not to be morose, but the longevity of those patients usually is not long enough. It's difficult for the way how funding or trials are structured here for any breakthroughs to happen. And also so much money goes to other cancers, which is why it's so important for us, because there is no path to follow for glioblastoma. You know, we had some resources.
It's so individualized.
Really. And then for us, like, we want to help create a path for other people who may have to go through this, so that anybody else in the future who gets this diagnosis, it's not as grim. And there is some more options and resources that are available. And we're 100% focused on cycle for survival now, but we have bigger plans. So stay tuned. But there are some great resources that I've found out there. But if I could be a resource to anybody that is experiencing this, or if George can, we're happy to help. And that really is what we want to do, is turn this pain into purpose.
And listen, Vinnie, how many downloads do you think, how many people are going to listen to this podcast?
I don't know. A lot.
200,000, 500,000?
Yeah, but somewhere between those two. Yeah.
Wow.
So somewhere between those two. And if everybody gave $1, $2,
Yeah.
how hard is that? That's not hard to do.
Come on. Look, we know that we can nickel and dime our audience
Oh.
up to $10. So if everybody gave $10,
$10, you guys.
so wait,
The minimum is $5.
Oh, I'm sorry. The
But
minimum is
we can go
$5.
for- We can go for
Look
10.
at you, nickel and diming. You are our people.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we can nickel and
exactly like
dime.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So-
know how to nickel and dime.
Y'all just get on there and give $5. And by the way, if anybody writes me saying, I don't want to do that because they send emails, unsubscribe to the emails. Give the $5 and then unsubscribe from the emails, you animal.
Yeah, just quickly unsubscribe. Yeah.
It's like when you sign up for like Netflix or Showtime, you watch it for one show and then you delete it.
Exactly.
You
Just give the
unsubscribe. But
$5.
I would say,
Good use of $5.
$5.
Or give $100.
and I would say that
$500.
I would say
You should give $1,000,
Give $1,000.
$1 million. Listen,
and I would say that
I got it. Go on.
can I say one other thing?
Sure.
100% of every dollar raised through Cycle for Survival goes directly to research and trials. There's not an overhead. There's no banquet or dinner that it covers it goes right into Memorial Sloan Kettering researchers and scientists. And you might say like, well, I don't live in New York City and I wouldn't visit Memorial Sloan Kettering. You might not, but Memorial Sloan Kettering produces research and information and trials that are
That's
used
right.
worldwide by other cancer centers. And all of these cancer centers, they do cooperate with one another. And you never know when you or somebody in your life or someone you love may need to be have their life saved.
By the way, I feel like too, I've known a few people who've had a glioblastoma, who've dealt with it, some families, distant people, but still known them. Ever since last year, since this happened, all of a sudden people are like, oh, my sister was just diagnosed with the brain. Like it's everybody's coming out of the woodwork and I'm going, okay, this is something where we need to put our resources as a nation. You know what I mean? As a people, we need to put resources towards this. And I really like the Memorial Sloan Kettering that 100% of it, because not a lot of other organizations can say that. I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying.
And that's why we want to talk
What?
about it.
Vinny, what did you say?
I didn't say anything.
Uh-huh.
The amount of people that have come to me or come to George and they have a family member or a friend who has just received this diagnosis. It's I'm not going to say remarkable because that's not remarkable. It's just wow. And so we've connected them to other clinicians or other places or given them resources. That's why we want to be so vocal about it.
Great.
To raise awareness, raise funds, and make sure in the future that anybody else receives this diagnosis, it is an opportunity. It's not grim.
Good. Well, thank you both for coming on. George, do you have any final things that you would like to say? I don't want to leave anything left unsaid.
No, just keep fighting the fight. You know, it's you don't realize until you actually are sitting here and you're talking to people that you realize not many people are aware of this. And all I want to do is just shine a light on those people and say, just, you know, keep struggling, keep going, you know.
Yeah.
And we'll do the best we can.
Well, you make keeping struggling look good, honey.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And guys, thank you for being on. And if you guys want to come back and talk again,
yeah,
you're welcome.
Come back and do an update
anytime. Yeah.
Love to.
Thank you.
Love you guys. And family business. Lauren needs to talk to you. You guys, Lauren needs to talk to you.
Oh, I have to go to dinner. I'll call him after dinner.
Okay, perfect. All right. Love you guys. The little family business.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Love you.
Bye, Vinny.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice talking to you guys again.
So Vinny,
Anna,
I'm not cutting anything. Joking and silliness aside, I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to listen, to hear Vinny's story, to hear George's story. I have been reading Peter Attia's new book, Outlive, about longevity, and cancer is going to affect people that we love or ourselves. So it's a conversation we have to have. We cannot shy away from it.
Yeah.
Did you get your Zoom link?
I was going to do We Are Family
Oh.
and I had it all ready to rock and roll, and the computer just crapped out, and I don't know why.
Listen, we are fighters as well, because if something craps out, we still go. We keep going because this podcast is important.
We figure it out.
Next week or the week after, here's what we're going to be talking about, you guys. Cooking 101 and cleaning products 101. We got to talk about
very important
toxicity.
People, cleaning products. What are you talking about? It matters.
It matters.
Jail Times talking about his great book, Estrogen Generation, and you would be shocked at what you can learn from that.
Well, it's funny. They were talking about the rare cancers, and it's interesting that pancreatic, ovarian, and that there's so much endocrine cancer. I know there's a lot of thyroid cancer. You know what I mean? And so you got to wonder. Yeah, you got to wonder about all these chemicals we're exposed to.
When he said that ovarian cancer was one of the rare cancers, I was like, wait a minute. I thought everyone got that.
No, maybe that's cervical. Maybe that's
that women.
We're not cancer experts, obviously.
Yeah,
maybe cervical or breast cancer. I don't know. Regardless, cancer sucks.
With the breast and the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
It's like I just kind of went down that road and went, well, I'm shocked that that's one of the rare ones.
Yeah.
But as they say, Anna, you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Folks, one of the things I learned today was that Anna Vocino's got 2 cookbooks out there. I didn't know this.
You had no idea, did you?
Eat Happy and Eat Happy Too. And while I was researching that on the Google machine, I learned that you also have some sauces. Yeah. And I call them gravies.
Yeah,
and you got the powders.
Yeah. And the powders are flying off the shelves. I didn't realize how popular the powders were. We're already ordering more because I don't want to go through that thing that I did where we were sold out.
No, because I need the powders.
I would tell people that y'all need to order them because
I put the barbecue dust on everything.
I do too. We did steaks last night. Hit the ribeye New York combo because he likes the New York and I like the ribeye. But we agree on the barbecue dust. I use it now as my tri-tip roast. I put it on the eggs. I also am obsessed with the dill on the eggs. I'm making taco bowls tonight with taco seasoning.
Here, I'm going to play a little thing here for you. Since we're on the phone, I could probably pull it right on.
Okay.
Let me see what I can do here. See if I can find Miss Serena Scott Thomas here. Where's that beautiful woman? Oh, here it is. You were just talking about the porterhouse, so I'm going to play this. In case people think I'm lying, she says in the thing, Vinnie likes a lot.
You do.
Yeah.
By the way, I had somebody write me, a friend of mine wrote me, and she's like, do you ever do the Greek seasoning? And I was like, I would love to do Greek seasoning. It seems like that would be great to do. And then she goes, here's the really popular one that everybody's using. It's like a retro seasoning. It's almost like the Old Bay, but of Greek seasoning, Mm-hmm. And I looked at it and I was like, did you buy this? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, it has MSG, hydrolyzed soy and corn isolate, and like sugar, of course, and something out like crazy stuff. And I was like, no, don't use that. Throw it in the trash. Please only use stuff that just has food as the ingredients. It upset me. I was like, they still put MSG and stuff and hydrolyzed crap. I don't even know what hydrolyzed is. That means they took soy and corn and somehow liquefied it into a nugget. Like, I don't know what that is. Why would you need that in the spice mix anyway?
I have no idea what people are up to.
Don't do it, you
That's
guys.
all I'm gonna say.
Read your ingredients. But we'll do a cooking 101 and cleaning products 101 next time. Thank you for talking about the eathappykitchen.com dusts and sauces and the cookbooks. Make sure you guys go to nsngfoods.com, use the discount code Vinnie and get 20% off your nut butters, your ultra fats, your delicious snacks. How long is that promo code running for, Vin?
Until the last day of May 2023.
Okay.
So if you're listening to this 2 years down the road, don't try that promo code.
I mean, you could try it, but
you can try it. It might work. We might have a new promo going on by then. It might be 30%. No, we would be losing 10%.
You know what's so funny is with podcasts that are on podcast networks, they drop in the ads, right? Like
Yeah.
but you and I do it so organically that if you ever were to move to a podcast network, they would hate us immediately because there's no way you can remove ads for how we do them.
Yeah,
It's so messed up.
23 shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, as the great Paul Capelli used to tell people when they would call and say, "What's it like doing ads with these people?" He famously said, "Just pay them and shut your mouth. Let them do it.
Yeah.
Don't give them a script. Just let them do it."
Yeah.
And Paul Capelli was, before he was the king of olive oil, was a big ads guy in New York, like
Yeah.
top of the rung ad guy.
Yeah.
And to get that kind of accolades from a Paul Capelli meant a lot.
Yeah. He was the
So-
he understood that we were doing integrations before they were called integrations.
Yeah, well, we did it because I can't read what someone else writes. They give me copy and you can hear me read. It's like
The
"Look at
ironic
Anna,
thing
this
being,
is
I
really-
can
this
do
is
that.
really good olive oil." Yeah, no, you do it. For me, I'm reading it and I'm reading it and it's not good.
Hello, Anna. Do you like olive oil? It is good with Villa Capelli in your mouth to have.
Anna, whenever I want olive oil, I want nothing more than Villa Capelli olive oil.
That's right.
Anna, the other day I wanted to go to the bathroom and that I had a squatty potty and boy, did my poop come out great.
Great
Squatty
pooping
potty.
times.
10% off right now. Can you imagine
miss
me
Squatty
reading a
Potty.
Squatty potty ad? I know. They
Okay.
got sold to a big company.
Oh,
and
did they?
folks,
Good for them.
Yeah. Folks, we were the people that broke Squatty Potty.
Yeah, we did.
We were like the first people. Like people were like, "What's that product? Is that a real product?" It's like, yeah, it's a great. I still use. Mine
I
every day.
still have them. Not only do I have them, I had to at one point when we had 2 houses before downsizing, now I have 6 squatty potties, but I only have 2.5 bathrooms. I'll never get rid of them.
Anna,
Squatty potties are the best. If anybody needs an extra
I-
squatty potty, I could send you one, but the shipping
if I
will be
have to
crazy.
if I have to move into an outhouse, all right. So let's see. I'm going to try to join video meeting right now. I'm back on again. Open Zoom. I'm coming on for the end here, Anna. I wonder if I could play music through this. Let's see. here.
Recording.
Oh,
in
now it
progress.
made you the host again. Oh wait, I got to hang up the phone. Hang up the phone.
Yeah. I just unplugged it.
Vinny, this
I'm
is
a
some
host.
bullshit. Look how good you look. Everything's fine. Like literally everything's fine.
Come on, man. What the hell happened? I'm so hot right now, folks. You need to go see this video. I'm so stinking hot. You won't even know what to do with yourself. All right. So I was gonna play
Well, now you have to stop the video because Debbie said, "Oh, you're gonna leave it on for her."
No,
Boy, we
Deb-
should have known this was